on the Roundtable with Asha Mwilu.
Good evening and welcome to the Roundtable with Asha Mwilu. Today we've traveled all the way from the capital city to Mombasa County. As we know, the politics is heating up in this county. The last couple of months we've seen the Governor Hassan Joho and the Senator Hassan Omar going head to head and clashing over specific issues. The Senator says that the Governor is corrupt and incompetent, and the Governor says that the Senator is personal. What's going on in this county? Tonight we invited those two leaders to the round table, and unfortunately both of them said they are not able and they are not willing to sit down on one table together. So tonight we ask, is it politics over people? Is the politics overshadowing the development of this county? It's funny enough, we have a representative from the county government, Francis Thoya. You are the county secretary. Could you perhaps tell us why the governor couldn't make it here personally and why he sent you instead?
I think let's be clear. As you have rightly said, it is not about personality. The issues facing the people of Mombasa are bigger than Hassan Joho and Hassan Sarai. So let's get to serious issues. We must move away from the side shows about the two individuals and get to issues.
But on the one opportunity they get to sit down together and talk about Mombasa issues and finally clarify why they're clashing all the time, the governor says, I pass. Why?
We need to start appreciating the background of the two gentlemen.
Right.
At one point in time, these were friends, holding each other on the shoulders, walking through Mombasa, supporting each other. The next question is, what really happened?
What happened? You're an insider.
No.
I think he has the insider
I
details.
think the best thing is
us.
to really ask the two, put them on the table and ask them what actually...
They won't show up at the table. I don't know what we think. Khalid, you are a respected community leader here, leading Haki Africa. What do you think about this showdown between the two leaders?
First of all, I want to concur with Francis that we need to move away from individual politics to issues. But having said that, personally, I am disappointed by the two leaders. I thought their not being here was informed by, maybe a busy schedule, because we know we have party primaries and all that. But if they just said they can't share the same table, that's extremely disappointing from both of them. I think this is the right time for them to tell Kenyans what they've been doing and to challenge each other so that they can help Kenyans make an informed decision between the two of them. I think for them to say they can't sit on the same table, yet these are leaders who are supposed to unite people, who are supposed to encourage dialogue, who are supposed to encourage issues to be discussed openly. It is disappointing to me, and I think to many Mombasa residents.
Suraya, what do you think? You're a leader as well. You call yourself a women's leader, so we want to actually find out what that actually means. But what do you think? Is it that personalities is taking over in Mombasa, the politics of personalities over the politics of issues?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's personalities that is taking over, and it's unfortunate. I want to concur with Hussein Khalid. It's unfortunate that this is an opportunity that the people of Mombasa would have loved to watch, because by the end of the day, it's the people who put them where they are. They all have their own roles to play, the senator and the governor. And this would have been a platform that they would have come up and tell us what do they have for us.
Right.
So for them to lose this opportunity, you guys come all the way from Nairobi, and then the two leaders in this city are not here. I think it's unfortunate. So it's not about... It's not about them.
Yes.
It's about the people of Mombasa and what they have in store for the people of Mombasa.
Rightfully so, and I think let's then do this conversation justice and go straight to the issues. I'll go to Maimuna. What do you think has been the biggest issue that this county government has neglected?
Let me add my voice first to the personality clash. Personally, I don't see it so much as a personality clash. This is politics. Interests change over time. In the beginning, they were common friends because they had common interests. And one went to become a governor, the other went to become a senator. And in the process, the interests have changed. And you can see the senator wanting to become a governor. Definitely, those are two different interests. So I don't think at some point I would say they've moved away from each other. It's like a confrontational
But I mean, if
debate.
their interests are now a priority, does that overshadow the interests of the Mombasa resident?
But the interests are focused in different issues. You can see from the senator's point of view, he is accusing, or rather addressing certain issues against the county government, corruption, and he has come up with many other issues, raising them against the governor. The governor feels like it's very personal. It's not personal. What the governor needed to do was come and respond to those accusations. If it is an accusation against him as being corrupt,
yes,
the governor should have been sitting here explaining where is it that he was corrupt.
And
that
you personally, do you think the senator's accusations hold any water?
If I don't have any evidence, then I don't have any right to accuse the governor. But if I had evidence, I would present it and say, this is the evidence that I think that the county government is corrupt. And this county government is headed by Governor Joho.
Yes.
And Governor Joho will have a right to respond to that. So that's an issue in itself. Corruption is all over in the country. And if you've had discussion all over the country, it was devolved from the national government to the county governments. So corruption is a major issue all over the country. There have been a couple of radio programs in the local stations. There's been a lot of discussion on the high level of corruption at the county level. Now, the senator has come up with a program to demystify most of the issues, saying this is the amount of money which was disbursed. This is how it was used in these activities. Now, the county government has not come out clearly to say, this is what we implemented,
right,
this is how much we have used. Now, that would have been a bit easier for the public now to engage in that kind of discussion and ask the right questions.
Mr. Thoya here
Absolutely.
today, so we want to know, the senator has said Mombasa is perhaps one of the most corrupt counties. What would you say to that? What does the country respond
I think
to
let's begin from the position of a legal position. When you place an allegation, you must be there to offer that evidence. That's a standard practice.
Okay.
Let the senator come open and say, or give evidence against all these corruption-related activities. Because
I mean, even without talking about the senator's allegations specifically,
yes,
I mean, we all know, we've seen the public records, the Auditor General's report, talking about 3% of the budget going into development issues in 2014-2015. A whole 97 going into the recurrent budget. I mean, Senator Hassan doesn't have to give evidence if the Auditor General can just show his reports.
you need to appreciate one thing, that 2013, 2014, that was a time when most of the governments were actually taking shape. You need to appreciate that. And also
This is the 2014-2015 Auditor General's report.
I don't think that is true. I don't think it was 3%. I don't think so.
I don't know.
We've never been at 3%. I think from what I know,
Right.
the lowest level we have been was actually 16%. That was the lowest
That's
level.
still quite low.
But that's what you'll appreciate from it was actually at the onset of devolution, where we were actually spending most of the time setting up structures. And you'll also appreciate counties have always been facing the challenge of getting disbursement from treasury. This has been a common problem. So when it comes to how much money you will end up spending in terms of development, sometimes that is a major issue across. Because the rate of absorption is purely dependent on the disbursements that are coming through.
I don't know, let me bring in Hussein. What do you think about that?
No, I think it's clear and it's common practice across the world. Whenever you begin a new system of governance, there will always be teething problems. This was expected, even in the Constitution. That's why we even had a transitional commission to help in terms of ensuring that we have a smooth system.
Yeah.
We know that county governments inherited very many debts.
I don't know, I feel like we're apologizing for the county government.
No, we're not apologizing. We're just we're explaining the facts.
I think we're getting there.
Yes.
But
We need to get the background.
Having discussed all these issues, because you know, they didn't just start from nowhere.
Yes.
They inherited the municipal councils, authorities that had systems in place. And one of the issues that we've had a serious problem with, particularly with the county government of Mombasa, is a bloated, very, very bloated staffing. Very many people, ghost workers, and so many issues. And that money, instead of it going into recurrent expenditures, could have been used. It is true, it is a fact, it was in the media, it was everywhere, that at one point, development was at 1%. Money set aside for development purposes. It was in the media, it was everywhere. But then the question that we need to interrogate is, why was it at that 1%? Yes. Are there reasons? Right. He's saying they're setting up structures and all that. Is it possible for that information to be shared for people to know? I know these are the issues that we need to discuss now so that we can truly interrogate what happened with the resources that were set aside for Mombasa County.
So hold that thought before maybe we can get to Mr. Thoya to explain those nitty-gritties. Let's take a short breather, and when we come back, we can delve back into the issues.
This is KTN News.
Good morning, Kenya. So I'm just getting into studio, ready to rock and roll. We have 2 hours of comprehensive news coverage on a show that's called News Center that's coming up in a few minutes. So tune in, DSTV channel 274, Zuku channel 14, and I'll be looking forward to seeing you as we bring you the comprehensive news throughout the next 2 hours. 2 hours. So there's the studio. Our studio is so cool. Look at that. All right, so see you in a few minutes on News Center. My name is Betty Kello. Looking forward. Bye.
Let me take care of your hands.
Kwa sababu ni muhimu kutunza mikono ya mama. Omo ina chembe-chembe asili ya kutunza mikono ya mama anapofua. Omo, nguvu ya kutoa madoa sugu. Kutunza mikono.
And therefore had to fight to restore dignity.
No taxation without representation.
Now they said, finish him.
Askari vile amemchapa hivi. Si hata mimi nijaribu kidogo.
Early morning game drives are indeed not for the faint-hearted.
Away from the fiscal stability report,
goes for at least 600,000 shillings.
I think I just found my royalty here.
Society, economy and psyche.
Meeting key industry players.
Money.
Kenyan women spend about 8.6 billion shillings on hair and beauty annually.
Financial markets.
Mafuta ikipanda tunajua chakula itaenda juu.
Economy, the jua kali sector.
Infrastructure.
Agribusiness.
Tax policies.
Technology.
Tourism.
Mining.
This is Business Today.
Every Monday to Friday.
At 2 p.m.
on KTN News.
This is KTN News.
Welcome back to the Roundtable. We're in Mombasa County discussing the politics here versus development issues. What are the leaders prioritizing? And we're talking about the county government, yeah? Allegations of corruption, how they've spent the county resources. Suraya, let me bring you in. What do you think?
I think we've put more emphasis on the workforce. I want to believe, yes, there's a bloated workforce. Two wrongs don't make it a right. Yes, I also agree that they've inherited a lot of, unskilled labor from the previous municipal council.
Yes.
And I think that is a challenge, because being a politician, you also want to do the right thing.
Right.
So now he also comes in with his own workforce. He's creating a structure against a structure, because devolution basically brought the whole ministry down. But what I don't understand is why county governments have also come up with their own ministries again. So it's like we've actually duplicated some of these departments, the people. And I can confirm that there are people actually who wake up in the morning and they don't even know why they're going to work in the first place. But the biggest challenge is we need to hold people accountable. Yes, two wrongs don't make it a right, but you need to do something about it. You cannot put 1% into development, for heaven's sake, and then we ask questions and say, how come there's no development when all the money is going to paying salaries?
I think there's some few issues that we need to put into perspective. One, by the time we were taking over office, that was 2013 March, we need to appreciate that at that point in time, we had inherited at least some 2,800 employees from the defunct municipality. And we had also inherited a substantial number of staff who were devolved from the national government. So in total, by the time we were getting into office, we had a workforce of almost more than 4,100. That is a workforce that we had inherited just when we came in.
And how many did you employ?
As a county, the last count I checked was about 225. That is the number of employees we have employed. We have not employed more than that. And you need to take into account the number of people that we had employed were the county executive member, because the governor had to. Two, the governor had also to put in the county administration, sub-county administration, which is critical.
Okay,
that had
fine.
to be put
Let me ask
into
you, the
place.
4,000 you're talking about that you inherited, what did you do when you got into office? I mean, other counties did a survey, they did an audit of ghost workers. Did you do that?
We did that, and I want to confirm here that at that time, Khalid was in Muhuri. And I remember so well, they're among the first few organizations that agreed to team up with the county government with a view to do what? An audit. We did an audit to establish as to exactly how many employees do we have, where are they, who are working and who are not there.
How many ghost workers did you weed out?
At that point in time, I can recall, the figure that was given was about 600. I remember, if I'm not wrong, it was about 600 and something. Those were people who did not turn up when they were asked to show up in some specific places for counting.
Okay.
But subsequently, after we went out to try and verify, some of them were people actually who had not shown up in their respective places of work. But moving forward, that aside, we need to appreciate one thing, that in the workforce that we inherited, and this will shock everybody, at least 18% are people with a diploma and above. So 18% of the 4,300 that we currently have.
Those are the only people with a diploma and above.
Yes, these are the people who you can constructively use. Or these are what you call skillful employees who you can give positions for them to be able to deliver service. You can't expect the governor to take somebody who is a Form 4 to be an executive, because you know the law does not envisage that kind of a situation.
Is that an impressive percentage?
No.
Do you think, for Mombasa County, that only 18% of the workers in Mombasa County have a diploma? Not even
that's exactly
that means what
that's the situation we found, and I think
the county or the municipality was operating with illiterate people. This is what I'm hearing. You
Precisely. That was the situation that we inherited at that point in time.
And if that was the case, then immediately leadership should have thought about restructuring and absorbing the group that is manageable, the diploma plus, instead of going out of your way to increase the numbers. Ideally, that is what should have been done. Restructure the municipality into a new county with the numbers. Then create an enabling environment for those ones who need to exit, rather than carrying them on board and having a bigger burden to carry, because currently all the funds are going back into salaries and you're not creating an enabling environment where the county would get more sources of revenue. Because if you release these guys into the economy, create an enabling environment, then the burden would have been much lower.
Because I would want us to move
fundamentally.
I want
just to...
Let me ask you something. Yes. You said 18% is what you found. What is it now? What's the percentage?
It has not even climbed to more than, because from the 200 it will not even pass more than 20, it was not more than 23%.
And so
it is just slight. We have just increased.
Really been a priority.
We have actually increased by almost, I think, about some 5 to 6% of the number that we brought.
As he rightfully said, I was involved in the initial stages of the audit. The audit was done by PricewaterhouseCoopers, and we did a very open bidding system, and they were selected. And besides giving the findings, they also made recommendations on what could have been done. And like I said when I spoke initially, one of my greatest issues with the county government has been the bloated staffing at the county. But also we know for a fact that political issues also play a role. When initially the county government made the suggestion to audits, and because you had ghost workers, people who were being paid salaries, their fathers had died years ago. They were collecting payments from the municipal. At that time, you had people who had 2 jobs. You had people who were sweepers who were being paid much more than executive officers. That is the situation that there was when the county government came in. So the issue is, the moment you start saying you want to dismiss some stuff, then I remember at that time there was a huge strike. And the workers went on strike. There was garbage everywhere. There, people were like helter-skelter. The town was a mess. So I know for a fact that political considerations were made. If we were to fire 18%, that would make it 82%. What would be the political implications? You fire 4,000 people.
That you ideally were paralyzed by the politics. You couldn't make a move because the implications were too heavy.
First of all, on humanitarian grounds, you just don't wake up one morning and send 82% of a workforce home. Humanitarian, it can't work.
But there has to be a plan. There has to be a plan.
We needed to put a plan in place. We need to put a plan in place. Find the money that could actually entice people.
Was there a plan?
I remember that was one of the recommendations that was in that report, that the county should probably get back to the national government and attempt to send these employees back, because that was the only option that was available to us. We didn't have the resources at that point in time, and from our perspective, it was difficult.
So you didn't have enough money for that process?
It wasn't possible.
But let me ask you, if you don't have enough money for that process, how then do you have 700 million to spend on antivirus or copy printers? Because that's what the Auditor General was writing in his report. The amount of money that he said could have been lost in Mombasa County because of, dealings that are not really understandable.
I am quite sure, and again, I want to be proved wrong. We have appeared before Senate and presented all the relevant facts, and we have been cleared over those allegations. At this point in time, I consider these to be allegations that are being brought afresh. But we have submitted all the necessary evidence before Senate, and we were cleared.
Okay. So, is this like the biggest issue that Mombasa has? Like if residents are watching and they're thinking a bloated county government is our biggest problem in this county?
I think it's not a problem as such.
One of the problems of managing a county government, that is one of the problems. As a result of that, that is when you hear hue and cry that there's no water, There's been a lot of hue and cry, and Madam Water is here, so she will be able to tell us that. There's a major problem of water. Yes. There's a major problem of sewerage in Mombasa. There's a major problem in terms of prioritizing what the country really needs. Anybody who's been in Mombasa listening to the public discussing issues, they will tell you each and every day there's a complaint from Changamwe, there's a complaint from Kisauni, sewerage. It rains in the morning, the water is logged. There's no water flowing in the pipes. There's no access to certain areas within Mombasa, the city of Mombasa in this sense. So the basic needs of the people of Mombasa are a challenge to the county of Mombasa.
Is that, so we're saying that Mombasa is mismanaged?
I think by the end of the day, is we are not holding our leadership to account, to be honest. Because by the end of the day, yes, there's no water, but I think it's something that was foreseen. We have a lot of other issues in terms of infrastructure development, population, you know, I think it has tripled,
yes.
You know, yet the systems are still the same. But by the end of the day, we still need the little money we have, call it 1%, call it 2%, we still need to make the best use out of that money.
But that's what that little
asking.
money, here there's a football pitch somewhere in my area, constituency, Nyali. Was that a priority really for the people of Mombasa?
I mean, maybe, in fact, maybe even before you answer, don't be defensive, Chief Secretary.
Thank you.
But the truth is, let me say, it's a good thing because it's better than nothing. That's how I can put it. And talk on the women's perspective. I think the youth in Mombasa have even benefited more than even the women in this town.
So you would rather have
what
a
surprised
football
me?
pitch?
What surprised me? Just a minute. What surprised me?
But there's no water running.
When I was in Majengo today, I was told the football pitch that is in Majengo, people are paying to use a football pitch.
So
3,000
revenue being
yes,
collected.
it's not for free. So I was wondering, I thought it was something to support the social dynamics within the community, yet
So
they
are
are
you
paying for
supporting-
that. So I got a bit mixed up.
For me, it's about the resources. Where are the resources going to? You know, there are all sorts of claims, 40 billion, 17 billion, the Auditor General. So we want to know, first of all, where has that money gone to? And it's clear and it's a fact that a huge percentage of that is going into recurring expenditure.
Yes.
Expenditures, you know, overheads, salaries, rents, and things like that. Now, if you look at devolution across the world, whether it was in Europe or in South America or in Asia, yes, granted, the initial phase, much of the money goes in towards structural adjustments. But what we are saying is we need to have seen much more than what we have seen so far going into devolution. Fine, you need the structures, because once you set up the structures, then you expect in the next successive governments there will be less expenditure in that regard. But what we are questioning is what was spent on development. Was that commensurate to what we have seen in terms of structural development? And those are the issues that we need to now
Francis, the question is,
respond to.
where were your priorities? If you have a bloated workforce, the money that you have remaining from what you've spent in the recurrent budget, what is the priority? Is it a football pitch or is it...
Maybe before he responds, there was 2012, 2013, 2014, is it 2014, 2015? I think when they got into the government, there was a beautification program in Mombasa where we saw flowers being planted all over Mombasa. We saw pavements being done. If you look at the budget, 20 million, I think, annual was spent on that. Go down now, I don't know what happened to the flowers, I don't know what happened to the pavements, I don't know. So money was spent on that, and we questioned. There was money that was put in the budget on gender mainstreaming, and we asked, what is gender mainstreaming? And nobody can give you any answers. So by the end of the day...
I respond before he responds?
Beautification, sure.
You know, there are too many issues.
Okay, maybe it's good to hear them out and then we
the beautification
tell us what you think.
Some of the issues like the football pitch, for us as an organization that is working with youth on issues of countering violent extremism and all that, we had all those plans and we actually made those suggestions because we felt without security, the right to security is paramount, and Mombasa is one of the most affected, and we have youth with knives.
So you're
and
supporting
and all that.
the fact that
I personally, for me, as an organization, as a human rights practitioner, I think engaging the youth in gainful employment, in extracurricular activities would actually help develop this country because we would put them into proper use. Yeah, the costs,
The
I
cost,
know
that's
those
where
ones
the
can
issue
be
is.
argued,
The issue is
those
the
ones
cost.
can be looked into.
Yeah.
But in terms of priorities, because this county has suffered a lot on issues of violent extremism.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So you've actually just answered it for him.
I
think the two issues that came out here.
Let me
Supporting
respond.
the youth is good. Sorry for that, but supporting the youth is good. Getting them to the field to play football or do other social activities before getting gainful employment is not solving the problem.
Okay, let's go to Francis. We need to give him a chance to respond to this.
Let's first of all appreciate one scenario that we have to put in place before we spend anything. And I think most of you are aware. What we were required to have done first was to put up a CIDP. A CIDP was a County Integrated Development Plan.
Yes.
That is a requirement. Okay. You cannot spend any public resources without that. That is the first document after coming into office which we put in place. And a CIDP is actually a needs assessment drawn from the people in Mombasa. We believe that's the first thing we did. We identified most of the few things the Mombasa people wanted, and we embarked on a journey to implement that. As Khalid has said, His Excellency the Governor was at pain to explain to everybody why tourism was at its lowest level ever in Mombasa. At one point in time, you will come to a hotel like this, there was nobody. And when we were discussing with many of the stakeholders, what became apparent was, Governor, you as a county must deal with the issue of violent extremism. And I recall very well, working through many partners, one of the things that was suggested was we need to create activities that will keep our youth busy across. And some of the projects that were identified were the football pitches that we have put across.
Right. So
we
this
were
was based on research.
We were just talking some few minutes ago. We've just completed the Uwanja wa Mbuzi, a very magnificent
So
football.
this strategy was based on research. That's
It was based on a research, and it was based on needs assessment conducted from the grassroots.
That there's violent extremism in Mombasa.
Yes.
Young people are
being lured
susceptible.
into, yes.
Yeah, lured into violent
Yes.
and radicalization,
Yes.
terrorism activities. So the priority was to build football grounds. That's what the solution was.
No, I think the issue, Asha, here is where there is need to spend. They're very good at spending. I'm sorry to say
Big
that.
spenders.
Because when it comes to countering violent extremism, there's so much you can do in terms of activities, in terms of security, in terms of... You don't have to...
make sense to say that we wanted to keep the youth busy.
It's supposed to have...
the youth are not employed. That is the reason why they got into violent
Perhaps,
extremism.
because
they are not employed.
This is Hussein's forte. I would like to hear from him to find out from your organization what is the priority.
We actually had over 2,000 youth respondents. And we conducted this research over a period of 6 months. I remember it was in 2014. And the responses we got from the youth was that, one, we need employment. Two, we need to be engaged. Because at that time, as he's saying, and my colleagues will agree, the hotels were deserted. There was absolutely nothing because, it was helter-skelter.
Yes.
So one, you can't employ 1 million youths at one go. Or Mombasa has roughly around 600 to 700 youths. That can't happen at one go. So what happens to those who are not able to? People need to go to school, people need to be educated, so in the meantime, you need to engage them as they're in colleges and all that. And I'm responding to this because I know these are recommendations that we made as an organization.
So that was where the idea of having social spaces
for young people, for women, for youth, so that they can actually be engaged in something as they're being educated, as their skills are being improved.
Right.
So that's something I know for a fact we were involved, and these are recommendations that came from the youth of Mombasa themselves. As Haki Africa, we conducted that research ourselves. We have the findings, and we shared this with many stakeholders that also made their input.
Okay, thank you for that.
I'm actually surprised. My dear sister here would not even attest to the fact that we have actually put roads up to her doorstep.
Actually, they have.
Good roads.
they've done
quality
Are you trying
roads.
to
also want to
write
know-
that
done-
No, but it's a reality. It is not only her.
Absolutely.
We
They've
have
done
done
a good job with the Cabro,
We've
but-
done great
but-
across this county.
Where it was not required. That area actually can afford to
It's
do
not
it
a priority.
themselves. It's not a priority.
But it is not
But
only-
had you done it in Kisauni and Kongoea, you know,
But we have
then it
done.
would be accessible. But the road that you put, actually, the neighborhood could have done it.
I also want a road.
So let's take a short break.
Yeah, and actually,
But
those
those
roads
roads
were
should
not
have come
just
to
put
government,
everywhere.
yes.
They were put in specific areas where they knew where they put them.
Okay, we'll come back to that. Let's take a short break and then we can discuss that in detail. I want to know why the roads were put in that
They never
specific
put
area.
that at our place. I never understand. I don't think we are anti.
I think it's good if you have a chance to come to offices. I'm not only saying that it's only...
I know the correct people who